Imagine a nation that, in its prime, powered nearly a quarter of the world's economy, a land of legendary wealth and dazzling culture. Now, picture that same nation just 2 centuries later, broke, beaten down, and fighting for its own identity. This is the story of modern India. It's a story of how a global superpower was brought to its knees and how it rose from the ashes to become the world's largest democracy. From the arrival of a British trading company to the stroke of midnight that brought freedom, we're going to cover the entire modern history of India in the next 10 minutes. Our story kicks off in the 17th and 18th centuries with the stage set for a massive power shift. The once unstoppable Mughal Empire was fading, leaving a vacuum that ambitious people were dying to fill. Back in 1600, a handful of English merchants formed the East India Company, getting a royal charter to trade with the East. For more than 100 years, that's all they were, traders. They set up shop in coastal cities like Surat and Madras, just one of several European powers trying to get a slice of India's riches. But the company's ambitions soon grew beyond just making money. 1757 was the turning point. At the Battle of Plassey, Robert Clive's company forces didn't just outfight the Nawab of Bengal. They outschemed him with bribes and conspiracies. That victory was the start of their land grab. A few years later, in 1765, the company scored the Diwani the right to collect taxes in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. This was a game changer. It handed them the keys to the treasury of India's wealthiest province, letting them pay for their own expansion. The East India Company went from a trading firm to a ruling power. At its peak, it had its own private army that was twice the size of the official British army, and it used that muscle to crush rival Indian kingdoms like the Marathas, the Sikhs, and the Kingdom of Mysore. By the early 1800s, the company was the top dog in India, controlling 2/3 of the subcontinent. A century of company rule was built on aggressive expansion, draining wealth out of the country, and social changes that rubbed many Indians the wrong way. Policies like the Doctrine of Lapse, which let the British snatch any princely state that didn't have a male heir, felt like a direct attack on Indian traditions. The constant flow of wealth out of India was making a once rich land poor, the final straw. The introduction of new rifle cartridges rumored to be greased with pig and cow fat an insult to both Muslim and Hindu soldiers. In 1857, what started as a mutiny among sepoys, Indian soldiers in the town of Meerut, blew up into a massive rebellion across northern India. To the British, it was the Sepoy Mutiny. To Indians, it was the First War of Independence. It was a brutal, bloody conflict that rocked the British to their core. In the end, it was put down because the rebels lacked a single leader and a clear plan. But the rebellion was a huge wake-up call. It proved the company was a clumsy and inefficient ruler. The British government realized it couldn't let a private business run a subcontinent. So, the Government of India Act of 1858 was passed, dissolving the East India Company and putting India directly under the British Crown. The British Raj had officially begun. After the 1857 rebellion, the British tried to tighten their grip, but in doing so, they accidentally planted the seeds of their own downfall. They introduced a modern, English-style education system, hoping to create a class of loyal Indian administrators who would help them run the place. Instead, they created a new generation of Indians who were reading about Western ideas like liberty, democracy, and nationalism. A new, educated middle class was born, and it started asking a very awkward question: why are we being ruled by foreigners? This new thinking sparked a cultural rebirth. Reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy spoke out against social injustices, creating a new sense of Indian pride. This growing awareness soon needed a political outlet, and in 1885, the Indian National Congress was formed. It started as a moderate group that just wanted more of a say in the government, but it would eventually become the main engine of the freedom struggle. As the 20th century began, things heated up. The partition of Bengal in 1905, a divide and rule move by the British, triggered the nationwide Swadeshi movement, which called for boycotting British goods and relying on Indian-made products. To address the unique concerns of the Muslim community, the All India Muslim League was formed in 1906, an organization that would be central to the subcontinent's future. But the fight for freedom only became a true mass movement with the arrival of one man, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He returned to India in 1915 after 20 years in South Africa, and he brought a radical new idea with him, Satyagraha, a philosophy of nonviolent resistance. Gandhi's approach was electric. It transformed the elite-led Congress into a party for every Indian. He led a series of powerful nationwide campaigns that mobilized millions. The non-cooperation movement of 1920 saw students boycott schools, lawyers walk out of courts, and citizens refuse to buy British goods on a massive scale. Then, in 1930, came the famous Salt March, a 240-mile trek to the sea to make salt illegally, directly defying the British monopoly. Gandhi was the undeniable leader, but he didn't do it alone. He was joined by giants like Jawaharlal Nehru, who would become the architect of modern India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man, who would unite the nation, and Subhas Chandra Bose, who believed in a more militant path to freedom. The final blow came with the Quit India movement in 1942. With Britain tied up in World War II, Gandhi gave the rallying cry of do or die, demanding the British leave immediately. The movement brought the entire country together for one last, decisive push. By the end of World War II, a battered and broke Britain knew it couldn't hold onto its jewel in the crown any longer. Independence wasn't a matter of if, but when and how. But the joy of impending freedom was poisoned by a deep, tragic division. The Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, demanded a separate nation for Muslims Pakistan, arguing their rights wouldn't be safe in a Hindu-majority India. Gandhi and other Congress leaders fought desperately to keep India whole, but rising religious violence and Britain's eventual agreement made partition seem unavoidable. On June 2, 1947, the last Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, announced the plan to divide British India. The Indian Independence Act was quickly passed, and at the stroke of midnight between August 14th and 15th, 1947, two new nations were born. India was finally free, but it came at a price that is still hard to comprehend. Drawing the new borders sparked one of the largest and most violent migrations in human history. Somewhere between 10 and 20 million people were uprooted from their homes, and up to 2 million were killed in the horrific communal riots that followed. The partition was a deep, traumatic wound, leaving scars on the subcontinent that haven't fully healed to this day. India awoke to freedom, but it also awoke to staggering problems. The new nation had to absorb over 500 princely states into its union, try to heal the wounds of partition, and lift millions out of desperate poverty. Led by its first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, and the firm hand of Sardar Patel, India began the colossal task of building a nation. The first, and perhaps greatest, achievement was writing a constitution. Chaired by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the Indian Constitution was adopted on January 26, 1950. It established India as a sovereign, democratic republic, guaranteeing fundamental rights to all its citizens. It laid the foundation for a parliamentary democracy that, against all odds, has survived. Though the words socialist and secular were added to the preamble later in 1976, the Constitution's framework was built on those principles from the start. To manage its incredible diversity, the States Reorganization Act of 1956 redrew state boundaries along linguistic lines. The government chose a mixed economy, focusing on building industries and launching agricultural reforms like the Green Revolution, which eventually made India self-sufficient in food. It was a time of laying foundations, building the dams, universities, and institutions of a modern nation. The years that followed weren't always easy. India fought wars with its neighbors, faced internal conflicts, and struggled with poverty and political crises, including a controversial state of emergency in the mid-1970s. Through it all, however, its democratic roots held firm. A huge turning point came in 1991. Staring down a severe economic crisis, India launched a series of dramatic economic reforms. It moved away from a state-controlled system and opened up to a market-based economy. This bold move unleashed the country's economic potential, kicking off decades of fast-paced growth. Today, India is the world's fourth largest economy and is projected to become the third largest within a few years. It's a nuclear power, a leader in IT and space, and a major voice on the world stage. From a colony drained of its wealth, India has risen to become a vibrant, diverse, and powerful global player, its story a powerful testament to resilience and the enduring spirit of democracy. If this whirlwind tour of India's history grabbed you, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from around the world. And while you're here, check out our video on the Mughal Empire to see the incredible story that came before this one. Drop a comment below and let us know which part of India's journey you find most incredible. The story of modern India is one of incredible transformation. It's a story of oppression and resistance, of heartbreaking division and amazing unity, of constant struggle, and ultimately of triumph. From the dark days of colonial rule to its standing today as a pillar of the world order, India's history is a powerful reminder that even after the deepest fall, a nation can rise again and write its own destiny.